in was that when we are in our bliss and our ecstasy, that is when the Ka body is activated, which allows us to be a greater magnet to, again, anything we put our attention on. We're now a vibrational match of I'm fulfilled, I'm satisfied, I'm whole, I am all of it. There's nothing missing or lacking within me. There's, I'm fully connected to you as a divine, beautiful union that we are in energy. So there's nothing, there's no comparison, there's no separation. It's simply being that. That is what activates us to be these powerful manifestors. And so all these little pieces for me along the journey just expanded me more into, and why my assignment now is creating the new humans of the new earth, is we clean up everything that is in our perceptions, our beliefs, what's in our bodies, even rainbow light body, activating our rainbow light body, and all these things through that our human life gets to be where our divine birthright is, to live in bliss and peace and prosperity, and to be in light, to be in our joy, to be in what is the most nourishing for our soul. Because being in that is how we then create the greatest healing for the planet. That's why it's like when I choose to be it, I am actually delivering this frequency. Like, it's like people, I know I received such an amazing frequency from you. I was so drawn to you the moment I met you, and had the most glorious rebirthing experience to you, which is still so dear to my heart. That's why you're such a sacred sister. Every experience I have with you, Yvonne, is I feel a transmission from every message we've ever shared to each other. It's always just like, I had you on my Embodied Empire Led by Spirit event, because it was just like, when I tuned into who are the greatest light leaders that are embodying these frequencies, they're being it. They're not just speaking about it. They're literally being the frequency that you feel it in there's a transmission, anything they do. I was like, Yvonne, you were like one of the number one ones that I came. And what's so cool is when we start to tap into, again, the ease and the grace of manifesting of all this support. I'll give you an example. In my book, or something that I do, is I encode everything. Now that I'm so aware of working with energy in every single way, I encode what I call encoding, like, speaking into the field, in everything. And everything that the angel Uratel taught me, that to encode everything that I write and speak to carry the frequency of divine unconditional love. And what I encoded is that, anyone that hears any of my transitions, reads or receives anything that we put out that's encoded with this frequency from Mother Mary of divine unconditional love and unconditional acceptance and compassion, and that it opens their heart like a warm bonfire. And I brought in Archangel Raphael to bring forth the emerald green healing light codes of opening the heart to a higher heart of heart consciousness, that it opens their heart like a warm bonfire, that they feel this higher frequency of love, and it calls them forth to their remembrance in whatever way that they're like, wow, this is what I want more of. Like, this is what I get to experience and be. And it calls them forth to really go their path of their remembrance. And the other thing that I encode in everything is the ultraviolet flame from Archangel Michael, that whenever in anything someone reads again or experiences, there's actually the ultraviolet flame comes from that transmission and cleanses through their system, because the ultraviolet flame, which we know Christ uses, Saint Germain uses, is like a flush of the system to support its protection energy, but it's also a flush of the system to cleanse and clear anything that's not on the highest vibration of your divinity, anything that's not in alignment. And obviously everything is your divinity, your shadows, your darkness, all of it. So more clearly would be a higher vibration of what's of your greatest good for you and all. And so I encode everything with these frequencies. Well, it was just about a month or so ago, someone reading my book sent my team a message, and they were like, every time I opened this, so they sent a picture of this, they had my book open, and there was this violet light shining from the binding of my book. And they're like, every time I open this book, there's this violet light. And they're like, I thought I was crazy, but every time I open it, I thought you'd think I was crazy, but I finally decided to share it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not making shit up. This stuff really works. Like, woohoo, And when we shared that, so many more people ended up sharing that they could see the same thing. And not everyone can see it, but it's like, wow, this is the power we have. That, can you imagine how these energies and these frequencies can support us? That, again, when we encode that into the field, that's just happening. It's working for us. And so there's lots of these ways that we can access our greater abilities to be able to be these high vibrations on the planet. And again, tune into our multidimensionality, our intuition leading and guiding us, our heart, our feeling bodies leading the way, because they feel energy versus my head going, well, I can't do that until this, or, it has to look this way. These are all just illusions of the 4D that we're moving through to come to a vibration of being in a higher awareness of who we truly are.
So Marci, it's so high frequency what you're sharing, and at the same time, I want to encourage our listeners that you are like, oh my gosh, when the frequency, the ultraviolet light, just allow the frequency behind the words, beyond the words. There's always a transmission, always, always. All the souls can translate the wisdom of light, all of the souls. You just gotta tap into more, like what Marci is guiding you to. I really recommend everybody that really listens to this podcast, you really want to understand, right? That's another word. Instead of understand, just listen, pause. She's encoding. I know, because I work with sacred geometry and I encode a lot of things, so she's an encoder of grace and light. Let me go back to something. You were talking about the Ka energy, and when I was younger, when I was younger in the physical form, my mother brought an Egyptologist to my home. I was 12. And he brought to teach us, she wanted us to learn how to decode the hieroglyphs. Imagine, that was my upbringing with my mom. She had multiple sclerosis. She used to read us Plato, Socrates, Shakespeare, Rumi. Imagine, I grew up, I was supposedly bored at that time, and Stephen King. And that's why,
what a variation.
I'm not your typical spiritual fellow teacher, my sister, my beloved ally. But I remember when he told us, he said, you know what? One day your double will appear, and it's up to you what your double will do. He called that the Ka energy, the life force. That it's when you die to the old self, that life force, like water and oil, gets separated, and it brings you all the light, and it gives you access to different light rays, frequencies that you're going to be able to embody and have descend into the earth. That's what he said, for you to share with others, right? That's what begins to awaken your human God inside of you. And as you are sharing that, and you're sharing about the energy of the archangels and the lights and all of that, I notice you have an ease. It's so easy for you to communicate about this. You really, you have, like, I think for everybody, like, what is this or what is that? She just has tapped into direct communication with the blueprint of source. And when you tap into this direct communication, it becomes what Marci says, easeful. I always said, Yvonne, you are so busy. I'm like, no, please don't speak to me like that. I'm busy. I'm very be easy this week. Literally, I'm very be easy. I'm being easeful. I'm not going to sacrifice. I'm not going to crucify. The metaphor of the Christ crucifixion that, one day I'll do a podcast. I doubt if it happened really. And I'm not wanting to steer the pot of all the beautiful people that follow me. But if that crucifixion as a metaphor happened, one of the greatest teachings of that Christ energy was, I won't go through it, so you don't go through it. What more clear message of, like, don't sacrifice, don't just don't die in your cross, just rise yourself in frequency. That's what you are sharing, right? It's the elevation of our frequency, the attunement with the frequencies that are available for all of us as we do the inner work, as we enter into this battlefield of that will have us let go of the sorrow and welcome our bliss. I always say that once you learn about your pain and you own your pain, you have earned beautifully back your joy. So Marci, I want to talk to you about your book because I was one of the first ones to receive it and I
Oh,
love it. I have it here with me. I
oh.
want you to speak a little bit about this book because it's such an extraordinary book. The Awakened Being, Living in
Mhm.
Liberation, Abundance, and Bliss right now. I love that you
Mhm.
put, that's my favorite line, bliss right now. It's not for tomorrow. It's not when I get, when I am, when I
Mhm.
clear, when I go through all these, even though I have worked a lot with people in trauma integration, I'm really focused on I'm not going to stay there for a long time because I cannot waste your no time. Right. And I don't want
Yep.
to spend 10,000 lifetimes. Hey, I have the trauma of my grandmother
Right.
and of my great grandparents. And we can go on and on. I love that
Yeah.
you are giving the call to of the interaction to joy. Tell me about this book,
Mm.
Marci, because it's a true portal of extraordinary frequencies and spirituality and awareness.
Thank you, love. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting that you would bring in that we could go into trauma and we could do that our entire life. And this was one of the key codes that was given to me. So I teach a 5 steps where it's like simple walking yourself through anything that's in resistance. No, what, could be relationship, can be money, can be anything. But when you learn how to go internal and go inside. So pain is pay attention inside now, which we know if we can even fully feel our pain, then it actually emerges into bliss. Like you can go into the void and feel it so fully that it becomes blissful because it's a release of everything that's been wound
Absolutely.
up, right? And bound. And so,
Yes.
one of the things I teach and share in those codes is how it's like, these specific things where we use our mind to guide us, but then we're feeling with our body and we're going in and finding like these deep depths that most people just blaze right past. And that's why I'm such I'm like, what's the human words for it? But it's like a proponent of experience, or I'm a proponent of being able to fully lean into something versus just do the mindset around it, because that's where it gives us the energy that's there. And so if we just say, well, this pissed me off when I was 5, and this made me mad when I was 4, and then that happened when I was 7, we could do that forever. And it's coming to what's actually underneath that is, oh, this is connected to this core wound, and guiding us to alchemize it, to bring it to healing, that then we get to implement it. We get to embody the new belief, the new pattern, the new behavior. So it really is, this was what the angels gave to me when I was healing myself of breast cancer. This huge awakening that I had, that I saw if I continue to speak into reality or have the same beliefs or perceptions or hold on to this old identity or this experience of struggle and suffering, it was like I can continue to learn my entire life through hardship and struggle and suffering. And what's also available as a divine light being is I continue to grow and expand into my ascension and my awareness and my remembrance and my knowing through bliss and love and peace and joy and acceptance and compassion and all these, again, higher codes of consciousness. So the book was, I was doing such high level consciousness things, and yet it was like, it's time to serve the masses. It's time to make this understandable, right? That word that we like to use, to everyone, that everyone has it available if they are choosing in on it for themselves, because we can give ourselves permission. We can only save ourselves. And so each person, whoever is wanting this, that there's a pathway for them. So I was guided to create this pathway and share this, that anyone could start to implement these, knowing how to move through things, how to alchemize. That's really why I really do teach people just to become alchemists. It's like to tune into their own inner alchemist that can transmute anything into their, our core wounds get to become our greatest strengths. And in that, there's, what was a gift is there's so many ways
Yes.
Yeah, there's just so many ways that higher consciousness understanding was brought into the book, that it was like, that it can, again, open our hearts to be like, oh, I can actually see through this light now. I can see through this perception. Wow, I can see what, where if I have resistance to anything, I'm actually blocking receiving more money, more love, manifesting anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And just putting together these understandings in a way that people could receive them and understand them and learn how to move through whatever their resistance is, that then that becomes the imprint that they live by. It's like we create new neural pathways. We create, as you know, once you've learned tools that access higher frequencies and allow you to move through anything that is resistance and create it to be a gift to, show you what else is available, why would you go back to suffering? So that's really, what the calling was for it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Why would you go back to suffering, beloveds?
Yeah.
It is, this is so beautiful. This is so true. The belief of suffering in a lot of earth, basically caused by religion or
Mm-hmm.
dogma or really outdated traditions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just timelines that are not supportive of what God is, of how we as goddesses,
Yep.
the individuating consciousness of this omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient energy of
Mm-hmm.
creation, as it's
Oh,
emerged